Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom. This is Brother Arawam from the James Jamaica camp. Come to another quick lesson. In this lesson, we're gonna take another nugget or another gem from our forefather David, our righteous forefather David, in regards to, you know, behaving ourselves wisely, whether we're in a so-called position of, being good, being highlighted, being, acknowledged or even promoted, being in a case where, things are going well, or even in a case where you're being either persecuted wrongfully, people coming up against you wrongfully, or, you just being in a, let's just say, sticky situation, for the lack of a better term, So hopefully this is edifying. I'll get straight to it. This is 1 Samuel 18:5, and this is after David actually slew Goliath. Right? It says, and David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. So right there and then, he did, a very good act. The Lord used him to deliver Israel from a force which they were afraid of. No one dared to challenge Goliath based off his stature and based off his stature and based off his strength. But when David came to the battlefield, he pretty much reminded them that, look, we have the power of Israel. We are the armies of the God of Israel, of Yahweh God of Israel. So this Philistine shouldn't come and defy us. And through his faith and his trust in Yahweh Shai, he conquered Goliath. All right, and this within itself, gave him it gave him prominence, or it gave him he caused him to find favor with the king. And also, there's a scripture in Proverbs. I think I might actually, let me see if I can get it real quickly. Let me get it real quickly, because he actually used his gift when he was doing this. He he didn't use any sword or anything, or neither did he try to act as if he was this warrior that was skilled with sword and all of that. He used what he knew, what was best for him. A man's gift. All right, this is Proverbs 18 verse 16. It says, a man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. And he pretty much, with what David did, he pretty much stayed within his lane. When Saul was giving him the sword and the armor and all of that, he said, he cannot use them. He said, have not proved them. And he just took his sling and the 5 smooth stones, and he pretty much, went with faith in Yahweh Shai, knowing that, he had that skill with that simple weapon, and it was what the Lord used to deliver Goliath in his hand. So that was also a part of it as well. So his faith and his gift, is what brought him, and is what the Lord used to conquer Goliath, right? So moving on, it shows that he behaved himself wisely, and he was also, accepted. Now let's look on this this term or this word. Well, let me just continue a bit, because I'm going to jump around, and then we'll actually get into the definition, right? So it came on, it told you that, when he was, everyone was singing, and, this is what caused, so he got promoted and got set up over the men of war based on what he was doing. He was loved in the sight of all the people. And then look what happened afterwards, right? And it shows that even in our daily lives, whether it's when being among the unbelievers, whether it's about around family or even around on the plantation, or just in most cases wherever you go. If it's a case that you're exalted to a certain extent, you know be women or people around you, the fact that you're acknowledged, you have some people that will be threatened, or especially if they have been in a position before you. So pretty much what happened was the women of music pretty much let me just read it. I don't want to make this too long, but I'll just get into it. 1 Samuel 18 verse 7 says, "And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul had slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day forward." And even if it's a case that, David wasn't, eyeing the kingdom, so to speak, even though he was anointed of Samuel, to be king, he wasn't actively doing these things so that he can try to take the kingdom from Saul. That was not the plan. But Saul saw him as a threat, even though Saul knew, because Samuel told Saul what was going to happen. But even then, Saul wasn't having it. Right? So it, explains that the evil spirit actually came upon Saul. Right? Now verse 12, it says, "And Saul," so after a few events, you can read through the chapter, to get more clarity. It says, Saul was afraid of David, because Yahweh was with him, and was departed from Saul. And that's another thing as well. These people have demons on them. There are spirits who work through people because they see that Yahweh Shai, is dealing with us. So it actually will cause them to be uncomfortable within their spirits, and they would actually try to get at us in various ways, shapes, and forms. And even within that, there is a way to operate. Right? It says, "Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over." Saul removed him from him and made him his captain over 1,000, and he went out and came before the people. So pretty much Saul just, got him out of himself. It says, and David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and Yahweh was with him. So pretty much, he pretty much, based on what I'm getting here, he pretty much demoted him. Right? He pretty much demoted him, so he pretty much put him down. But even then, David was behaving himself wisely. We'll soon get to what that means. We're just showing the different scenarios. Verse 15, "Wherefore when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him." And that's also another thing. So you have times when, within the spirit, you have people that come up against us. And when they come up against us and they do, they share the dealings, they deal with us unfairly, they make things harder for us than it needs to be. And we remain in the spirit, we keep it humble, there's no backlash, there's no fight. It confuses them more, and it also makes them more afraid. Because it's always like, so what is it with this person? How is it that I'm doing these things? And they're so calm, and it makes them even more afraid. And sometimes, even when they do that and they still see that, we prosper because Yahweh Shemashah, guides us and make sure we're good, as being his servants, as being members of the hopeful elect, they'll see that, and it scares them even more. It riles up those spirits that are within them, and it will even cause them to come, even harder against us, right? It says, "But all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them." So I'm going to jump around. This is showing that Saul actually planned to kill him, and he went about it in a very cunning way, right? So this is a part of the Right. So verse 20, and Milcah, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him, because he was saying that he will send David to go to war against the Philistines to die, right? And pretty much he wanted him to go in the heat of the battle, hoping that he would die in the heat of the battle, right? So it says, and Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistine may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And that is it. You know, even within this in this society, this is nothing new. You have men who will send either their daughters, their friends, or send women to actually trap men, to lure them to get killed, to get them to act foolish, to pretty much get their resources and their substance and their money, you know. So pretty much, he gave David his daughter in hopes that she could be a snare unto him. And this is also a warning unto us as well, to be careful as it pertains to women, whether it be the women that we deal with, women that we live with, for brothers who have women, and these women that are out here, be careful, because as the scripture tells us time and time again, that these women are snares and traps, you know. And feel free to put those scriptures within the comment. Just trying to keep this as to the point as possible. Right? It says, and Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly, and say, behold, the king had delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. Right? I'll continue. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David, and said, seemeth to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am esteemed a poor man, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? And the servants of Saul told him, saying, on this manner spake David. So he went ahead and they tried to do that, but in David's mind, him being wise and being circumspect, some men would pretty much jump at the thought of, oh, being the king's son-in-law, that can get me, notoriety, or if I'm pronouncing that word properly. So pretty much, it will actually make me look big, it will pretty much give me fame. It will help me to make a name. But that was not David's approach. He knew that, being a king, being a king's son-in-law, it came with responsibility. It came with a lot, because then you have to operate in a way that won't be shameful unto the king. It's not something to just, I'm just going to get a name. It actually is a task even within itself. So it wasn't, that wasn't getting to his head. He didn't approach it like, oh yeah, I definitely deserve it. Of course, look at all the work that I'm doing. I should be rewarded this way, or it's the least the king can do, or anything like that. No. He was wise about it, and pretty much Saul pretty much told him to speak well of him, and say that, look, the king actually the king won't. And then again the dowry as well, because David brought up how expensive it would be, and they told him that, look, all he wants would be the foreskins of 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 you Philistines, and David got more than the amount. So Saul told him that in hopes that he would try to achieve that task, because it was a very hard task, and in trying to achieve the task he will die. But the Lord was with David, and David prevailed. Right? It says right, verse 28, it says, and Saul saw and knew that Yahweh was with David, and that Milcah, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. And that is it. That will happen. The more that people try to even set snares for you that you're not privy to, and you walk wisely, which is within these scriptures, and have full trust in Yahweh Shai, it actually guides us out of the way of dangers, even without us knowing. And also, it's still it still allows us to be successful, in whatever it is that we do. And even then, especially those that are coming up against us, when they see that, it's not working, it will actually cause them to continually come against us. Because guess what? We're walking within the spirit of righteousness. And they are of the, we are of the day and they're of the night. As the scripture says, what? The godly against the ungodly, the righteous against the unrighteous. So our deeds will hurt them, especially the fact that we're not, reacting or operating in the way that they're used to, or that they're expecting us to react as according to this word. Verse, what was this? First Samuel 18, verse 30. It says, Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass, after they went forth, that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by. So, even he kept on saying that he behaved himself wisely. And guess what? Even that within itself solidified him. It gained him praise. It gained him, it pretty much had, even without him trying, people naturally, gravitated towards him and was in support of him, because the Lord did that, firstly because it was prophesied, or it was the Lord's will for him to be king, but also, in the sense of, the scripture tells us that once we follow the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, we will have, good success. That's within Joshua. So let's look on this term or phrase, to behave oneself wisely. All right. And the Hebrew word here is shakal. Right? It says to be prudent, to be circumspect, wisely understand, prosper. To be prudent, to be circumspect. Right? B, and I'll jump around a bit. B2 says to give attention to, consider, ponder, be prudent. 3, to have insight, have comprehension. Right? What's that? That's 4. Well, 5. V5, to act circumspectly, act prudently, act wisely, to prosper, have success, to cause proper. Right? And there's a word that I saw earlier. Oh, right, down here. So when we go down here, where it says, look at 2, it says to be prudent and act prudently. 1 Samuel 18, verse 30, which we were just reading through 1 Samuel 18, right? And it goes down to say verb to look, it says provident, circumspect, so we're gonna get a few of those words. Blasted ads. Actually looked it up earlier, so give me a second, let me just pull it back up. All right, so the word provident, right? It says to make provision for the future, to be prudent. I didn't look up this word provision, but let me just check it. It says the act or process of providing. All right, so I'll look at C. It says to a measure taken beforehand to deal with a need or contingency, preparation, right? But I'm gonna go more to the side of, being prudent. So when you click on the word prudent, it says characterized by or arising from showing prudence. Before I get to the word prudence, I'll just look at a few of these definitions. It says marked by wisdom or judiciousness, right? Judiciousness. Having exercised or characterized by sound judgment. So that's the word judicious. Shrewd in the management of practical affairs. Marked by circumspection, right? And you look on the word discreet. It says having or showing discernment or good judgment in conduct and in especially in speech. And that is it, he conducted himself, you know, he showed discernment, and he actually had good judgment in how he conducted himself and also in the things that he said. So he operated on all aspects. He was very careful in his conduct, he was very careful within his speech, and he was able to discern what was happening around him. Right? So let's go ahead and let's look on the word circumspection, which will go to the word circumspect, which says careful to consider all circumstance and possible consequence. And that is why even when they came to him about being the king's son-in-law, he was saying it is a light thing to be a son-in-law to the king, because he knew that, yeah, there's the good, there's one thing of, being highly esteemed and, being in the king's house and all of that. But there was the other side of it as well, of, if you mess up, there are consequences as well. If you one misstep, and you could be in trouble. And also, he even knew at one point that he told it. Well, when you read, if we had read the chapter completely through, you would see where even at one point, Saul pretty much threw a javelin at him. So he knew also that that's the Saul's spirit was against him as well. So he knew that if he didn't step right, or he marrying his daughter, and doing something wrong could also cost him his life. He looked at a lot of things. So even when he was demoted, he still behaved himself circumspectly. He considered the possible consequences and outcomes and stayed within the spirit and walked according to the doctrine of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So that those are the things that come with, being circumspect, within the spirit. Right? Is there something else I'm missing? Let me just check back these words that I looked up. Right, one of the words that came up with when I was doing the world trade, the word trail, one of the synonyms were persistent, which goes back to pre-science, right? And it says what? Foreknowledge of events, right? The human anticipation of course of events, and it goes back to foresight. So he was always looking ahead. He was always thinking about the situation that he was in and considering all possible outcomes. Ultimately, and hence the words prudent and circumspect, are the two words that come with behaving oneself wisely. And we need to do so at all times within this ministry. We have to pray for that spirit of wisdom, the spirit of being circumspect and prudent, right? An act or the power of foreseeing, prescience, right? Provident care, prudence. So it all goes into the words are basically intertwined. An act of looking forward, also a view forward. So he was always looking ahead. Foresightedness, forethought, prescience, providence, vision. One of the words that I actually went into even went as far as to say what? Visionary. He would always check. He was always looking ahead. Yeah, I think that that is definitely it. So let's read the word circumspect once more. It says what? Careful to consider all circumstances and possible consequence. Prudent. And that's the spirit that we want to pray for. We saw that even when he was exalted, he still remained prudent. He wasn't giddy-headed. And even when he realized that Saul was against him, he still stayed prudent. So he behaved himself wisely. And that's the spirit that we need to pray to Yahweh Shem Yahushai for. So just wanted to bring that out. Hopefully it was edifying. Once more, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Shem Yahushai, B'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to our brothers in the highways and byways pushing his word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom.